Hello guys, we're back. And now we're going to continue with the ZBrush. So last time we made a raw shirt, we made it in Marvel's Designer, and now we want to optimize it, make it look better in ZBrush, and just continue on with the pants. So now, the very first thing I spot here is we obviously need to click Shift and F in the same time. Now, what it does is it lets you see the wireframe of our model. And if you pay closer attention, you can see that our entire model is in one color. This color, a coloring method, this is actually not a real color, but it's colored in polygroup way. I mean wireframes. And this is what we call polygroup. So this is one polygroup because it's green, right? If we have multiple colors, we would have multiple polygroups. Now, if you remember in Marvel's Designer when we did UVs on the side, so we had 3 islands, right? We had one for actually we had 2 in the beginning, which were this part of shirt and this part of shirt. Then we unfolded it in the middle, you remember that? And now we have 1 because of it. Then we have 2 more, and those 2 more are lower elastic band and a higher elastic band. You remember that? Okay. Now, why are they all shown as 1 if we have 3, you might wonder? Well, that is because we didn't polygroup it by UVs. This is just one polygroup. So if you go into polygroups on the side in ZBrush, you can see there's something called auto groups with UV. If you click on it, you see that now we have 3 of them. Sometimes you might think that this is the same color, but it's not. If you hold Ctrl and Shift and you click once and then you click again, you can see that they're actually separate, right? I'm just clicking just to show you. Okay, then you hold Ctrl Shift, you click somewhere to the side and it all shows up again. Now, why is it important that we have it as separate polygroups? Look guys, if we had it as one polygroup and we just Z-remesh it, or it's remeshing, it's basically turning these triangles into quads and lower amount of them. This I'll just show you for 1 second just how would it look like if it was very. You see this tool on the side under geometry. It's called Z-remesher, right? And it has this little option called keep groups. And if you tick it on, it will keep you 3 groups, but it will make a really nice seam in between of them. And that seam, we need to use it for UVs later on. And if you want to make changes now, if you want to, do things, it'll be much easier because of it. Because now also look at this. So for example, this is just an example. I want deeper hole here. What I do is I just Control Shift on this one, and then I do it again, and then I can do just like this, you see? And it remains as it was. It gives you much more options to do. Now, in this case, I forgot to put up the shirt on the side, but it doesn't matter. Look at this. I want to fix it first. Now, since it's already polygrouped, I want to see what I don't like. And this part here is something I don't really like. So you can see Control, you can do Shift F or not, it's up to you. But we can do it. If we do it at this poly count, it's a bit smoother. It will look smoother. So we'll do it here. So what I do is you click S, and then you can draw up and down. You see, this is your brush draw size. If you hold Shift, it turns into smoothing. And then if you hold left click, it smooths it out. But you don't want to go overboard, and you don't want to smooth the edges because you see how it ruins them. That we will do on a higher poly count level. So I'm doing this primarily to sort out these big things I don't like. Now what are those? I said I don't like this, right? So I'm going to remove it. Now how can I make sure that I don't touch this or this? You do Control Shift, you click once here, remove it again. You see, easy peasy. You just Control Shift and click. And in here, I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And now I'm just smoothing it up. But you see, it didn't make a mess because I had it separate. Also, if you have really deep holes, like I do here, you see these holes here. These holes, they will cause big troubles later on. But okay, I will keep it as it is so you can see it. You can see why. Never mind. Like this. This is good. And this, we smooth it out a bit. I don't like there to be the nipple area, so I'm going to smooth that too. If you click X, you can do it simultaneously. You see the little red square on the left side. Now it's on the right one. That's symmetry. But I'm not going to have it on. You know, not everything needs to be symmetric. Symmetry kills it sometimes. So this is roughly something that I like. Okay. And now let's do, you can do Control D and it ups the quality, you see? Or you can just click divide here and it will up it too. But if you pay attention, if we zoom in before we do that, you do Control Z to go back, by the way, you can see that this line is pretty straight. And if we do subdivision, it kind of makes it, you know, not nice. So what you can do is you can go to crease and crease polygroup. Now what crease does is pretty simple. It adds a line between the polygroups. You see this, pay attention to this. I'll zoom in a bit more. You see, do you see it's a normal line here, right? It's just separated by color. It's a different polygroup. If I click crease, take a look at this. Do you see how there's a thicker line coming up? And this line comes here, here, whenever there's a border of any polygroup. And what it does is if you do smooth or divide, then you see this? It will keep it pretty sharp. It will not be destructive for your model. But we don't want to go this high, because sometimes if you go too high, it will kind of ruin it by itself. Because, you know, it starts turning into something that it's not. And I don't want that for my fabric. I have to look around. You see how when you smooth it, when it's very, let me show you. Do you see when you have triangles and when you divide them, you see they turn into like pentagrams or something. And those pentagrams, when you smooth them, look, it kind of looks like a letter. So there's another way we can go around it. It will not always work, but let's see if it will work now. So what you do is you go to Z remesh and you keep groups. You put smooth groups to 0. You need to make sure that the symmetry is off. So you select anywhere, you click X, see if the little red square is there. It must not be there. And you pump up this target poly count all the way up and you click Z remesh. But keep groups must be on and it smooth must be 0. Remember that. Let's see what happens now. You see this line here? It signifies how far it is done. You see? Now it's done. What do we have here? Now everything that was triangle before turned into square. But we did lose some quality because of it. So it's, you know, making models in software like this, it is, you know, it's a lottery. Are you willing to lose this detail for more customization and stuff? If not, that's also good. Completely up to you. I moved it back. I don't want to lose it. So I just subdivided it like this. Maybe I can smooth this part up a bit. I don't know. I'll leave it as it is. It's okay. Now, if you had you know, in Marvel's Designer, that particle distance that was on the side, if you had it on 1, you would have much better detailed model here, right? You wouldn't have this many, you would have much more of these triangles, you know? And you might wonder then, okay, if the triangles are really that big of a deal, why don't you just export it as quad? If you export it as quad from Marvel's Designer, it's even worse than triangles. And that tells you a lot. Don't do it. If there's a method of doing it, I did try it already. And I think this is a bit risky, but you know, it works. And if it works, that's all that matters. What we can do is we can not smooth, but just divide, but then it's just kind of gives you just a tiny bit better results, but I don't know. See, these parts are really tricky. These parts are really, really not good. Even if you leave it like this, you see you can move it up and down like this in here too. But if you leave it up to like 2 million, it's more than enough for what we need. That's more than enough. So let's say that I'm happy with this. But you can also do like you know, you can draw stuff here, but I told you not to. I won't overcomplicate this part. We're done here. Basically, we're done with high poly. Now, what you want to do is go export and do high underscore shirt. So we have original. If we need to ever change something, we have high now. Why do we have high poly? You might wonder if I told you that we're going to optimize it here. Because we need to have 2 models. One will be high poly and the other will be low poly. Now you might wonder, what is high poly, what is low poly? High poly is high poly count and low poly is obviously low poly count. Now take a look at this. If we go into subtool and we select our shirt that we have. This is like the high shirt we just exported, right? You click duplicate, and we're gonna hide the first one. So you just click on the second one, and you might wonder like, oh, well, nothing happened. It did happen. We just, this little eye icon on the far right tells you if it's hidden or not. But you need to click anyways on the next one to make it see. And now we need to optimize this model into low poly version. So we need to turn 2.1 million polygons into like, I don't know, 1 or 2K. So what we do is we go into target poly count area here. It's in Z remesher under geometry, and you put in number 2. This tells you roughly how many thousands of polygons it will have. So 2 would be roughly 2000. I could be wrong, but we'll see. So you do Z remesh. And because we had keep groups on, it will keep our groups. But if we smoothed it, it would also smoothen this parts. If you see like this parts that we wanted to keep somewhat sharp, and we don't want that. So this part obviously takes a bit more of time. Now let's see, we got something like this, and you're like, oh, that is ugly, what is this? No man, it's good. It is still too high up, if you believe me or not. It has like 4K, that is too much. So we need to cut it down. So what do we do is you do half here, you see, in Z remesh, and you click Z remesh. Let's see what we get. So we're on 3.6K, let's see if it's bad or good. That's not how I want it to be. Let's try with smooth groups. Let's smooth it up as much as we can. No, I'm not happy with it. I'm gonna move it down. It's obviously trial and error, guys, you know. Let's do it again. You can do it many times, but you don't want to overdo it because sometimes it will just ruin your entire geometry. This is 2K. I'm happy with it. 2K is alright. So now what we have is low poly model. If you would put something like this in game, it would work perfectly. You see that it has quads. It doesn't have triangles, if you pay attention, but you see this part is a bit off. You see how it's a bit off, but it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. What we want to do is, since we have all of our poly groups intact, the next part is going to be very easy for us. But it is if you want to keep obviously, if you want to keep it separate, but we can do it all together. It's not a big deal. Take a look at this. You go into Z plugin. It should be somewhere around your screen. It can be on the side. It depends on the overlay. If you don't like the overlay you have in ZBrush, you see these two little icons up here. You can move it up and down, or you can find a tutorial of something that you like. You see, just find something that you like. But I would recommend you to. I just selected random one now. But do you see this? You might not even see the poly count, but don't worry about it. Document. You see this little back thing. Put it all the way back so it removes that. I'll show you how can you see the poly count too. It should be somewhere around here. It's not under stroke. Tool. I think it's under miscellaneous in tool. Yeah, here you go. You see, so if you want to customize it, you can just, drag this from here up to the scene, but you have to have a config on. You see this enable customize thing, and you click here, and then you go into miscellaneous, and you hold Control Shift, and you just like drag it. Or was it some other hotkey? It doesn't matter. You can find it on the internet. Even I forgot it. But anyways, what we have is good, but we need to make sure that it's unwrapped. And I'll explain this better in Blender, but we need to do this part here. So you go into Z plugin, UV master, and you find you see this polygroup little thing, and you click unwrap, and you're done in ZBrush. That's it. That's all we need to do here. You go into export, and you export it as low shirt, and you click save. Now what we do is we go into Blender. So we gotta wait for it to open. And in Blender, we obviously click A, then X to delete everything. File, import, OBJ. In here, we need to find the shirt we just made. So it was in 3D, Skyrim, tutorial, low shirt. And what I told you before, on the numpad, next to 0, there's a hotkey called del. You click it and it zooms in. You might see quads here, and that is because the model is not smoothed. So what do is you right click, shade smooth. You can also do, if you have metal parts and you want them to keep like that really crispy edge, you would do shade auto smooth. But in here it wouldn't work because it would recognize this as those crispy parts, which they are not. So we want to do shade smooth. You see how it's not that big of a deal now. Okay, now let's see, if you click tab, you go into edit mode and you have your entire model, right? And up here, you can select UV editor and you drag this out. So what do we have here? This is the UV, and I need to explain you how it works. Everything must be selected for this to work, right? For you to see this. This is the UV. What UV is it's a little map that allows you to put texture onto your model. Textures, they are not 3D. Textures are 2D. So, do you know when you were a kid and you had to, in class, they were like a little, what are they called? Cubes of paper, and then you had to unwrap it. So you would get like a little cross, and then when you put it back up, it's a cube again. That's what we do. But with clothing, it's not as complicated as you think. A lot of people think it's complicated, but it's really not. The best way to do seams would be to follow the elastic bands on the shirt. So you would have them obviously on the side, neck area where your sleeves connect, those things. And that's where the seams go. So in our case, we already did all of this in Marvelous Designer, but you see there's no red lines here. So they're not really, they are applied to the model, but we cannot see them here. If you were to import this into Substance Painter and you would start painting, it would work. But you see in here, it's just, it doesn't take enough space. The idea is that this part needs to take as much space as possible so that the texture, when we apply it to it, looks much better. You will see what I mean when we get to it. But now what you want to do is you click A here too, and you go into UV and you do seams from islands. So it will recognize where the islands are, where the edges are, and it will apply a red line to them. This is the red line they applied. You see, if you wonder what this is, you see, okay, it's this part, but where is the rest? And you click, you remember this spot, and you click A and you look at it and you know, okay, it was this spot. Do you see what I mean? Okay, and now you double check if there's any lines that are not good. For example, if people would see this line here, they wouldn't recognize it, right? But you would. If they would go like really close up, they will see, okay, there's a cut here, and this is where they will see the transition of texture. I don't know if you understand me, but let's say you have, maybe I can import it. Give me a moment. Texture, I don't know. Grid. Let's do grid. Let's find grid. If there's any grid, I'm uploading picture up. I'm uploading the video already, but so it's gonna be too slow. If you had grid and it goes like this, right, up and down, up and down, up and down. In here, it wouldn't go up and down. It would go at the angle because this part is angled. Do you understand what I mean? Okay. Since we already marked everything, you need to click U and then unwrap. So you see, it takes a lot more space. But these parts are still a bit iffy. You see, they're not completely straight, and that's okay. If they were completely straight, there would be something called stretching. And when does stretching happen? What it is. These things are very difficult to explain just by words, because this you need to see in order to understand. I don't know how else to say it. But so I'm going back and forth a bit everywhere. What you want to do is you see these lines here. You go into edge. This is the second thing. And you click on both of them. You shift click this, go U and go clear seam. And you want to add those seams here in the back where all of the other seams are. So it's easier for people to, so it doesn't look unprofessional. You want to select everything again, click U and unwrap. You basically get the same thing, but the textures will cross at a different spot. But the more you do this, the easier it will be, trust me. And there's also a lot of programs that check if there's any stretching for you, but I will not use this. I try to stick only to Blender and ZBrush because that's what Michael wanted. Okay. So we're done with the shirt. This is basically everything you need to do with it. But let's say if you were to make texture for this and you export it, you would have one texture set. It would have diffuse map, which is your color. It would have normal map, which is for the depth, right? And that's it. But if you have pens here too, you can combine both of them into the same texture map. So you would also have, you see how we have a lot of space here? That means we could fit pens too. Okay, so I'll just leave this as it is, and I will show you how can we fit pens into this so it takes less space. It's not difficult, but you'll understand what I mean. So we export it as low shirt. This is our low shirt. This is perfectly fine. If you were to say, okay, I just want to make shirt, you get this far, you can already go to texturing. But that's not what we do. We need to go into Marvel's Designer back again, and we want to make the pens. You can close the blender now. I'll skip this part. So I tried to make pens once and it ended up like a disaster, so I had to redo it. And we're gonna continue where we're left off. So you have this here, right? This is the shirt we made earlier, and what you want to do is you want to deactivate it. Here you go. And next up, we want to make pens, right? Let's see something about the pens. I was wondering, why are the pens not looking exactly the way I want them to? And then I figured, oh, you're actually looking at the AI picture, and there's no way something like this can exist in this way. So there's no connections to this. You see, if you would go all the way up here following this scene, that means you would not have these tension lines, and because they would obviously be straight line going up, and that is not the case. You can see that these pens are made up of 3 pieces. So this is like a little shorts part, you see, and then there's like a little transition part, and then there's like a lower part. Now I think this is not the part of boot, it goes inside of the boot, although it looks like it is like boots connected to the pens, if you get me, or if this lower part are the boots, but I don't think they are. I think it's all pens, and the AI messed it up here. But regardless, I wanted to, since I already failed at making it once, I got smarter and I found a pattern that I want to follow in order to make it. Now this pattern on the right is the one I found, and it's about leather pens. So if you recreate something like this inside of Marvel's Designer, you should get pens that are similar, if not same, to these. So let's get to it. So now let's first figure out how do you read these patterns, because I told you that patterns in Marvel's Designer are like sewing patterns in real life. You know, people make it, they get a certain type of fabric, and then they put it on table, they take the measurements, right, and then they cut it with scissors and they get something like this. So once they sew it all together, they get the clothing on you. Well, we're doing the same, except we're the tailor guy that does that for our character, for other people's characters. So we have a really important job. Okay, so let's get started. Now, which part is which? We must decide first. Now, how do I tell which one is which? I don't. I'm kidding. I do, but it takes time. You know, you start making all of them, and then you figure out which connects where. I would, when you see this part, you know this part goes inside. Now it's either back or the front part, and it goes towards inside. This side is always to the side. When you see this can be like a zipper. You know what I mean? Like a zipper you have on jeans, right? But it is not it, because it comes here. So you see, we can assume that this entire thing here is a front. So this is connected onto this, and it makes front. See, let's make it. Let's see what we get. Okay, let's see. Let's start by creating that one. And let me see. Okay, maybe it will be actually. Look, if we make this and then this, if we make front side first, that means we will not have symmetry right from the start. Maybe it would be better to create back part first, because back side is same on both sides. If you know what I mean, it's gonna make sense. Don't worry. Let's start with the back side. Okay, so we see this is pretty much a straight line, and it goes something like it goes all the way down. And that is a curve point. You guys probably don't see it yet, but you'll see it. One sec. You probably don't see it yet, but as I said, you will see it. So this way down, it should be perfectly straight, but for some reason for me it is not, and it should be around the area where the knees are. Now if we go here, we go like this, I believe, something like this, and then this, and we get that. If you press a V, you know you can do like little curves, and this will obviously be a lot curvier than we think. So I want to pull this out a bit, and then I want to straighten this lower part down as much as I possibly can. It is impossible to do it with without a proper splint point. So I'll make one, but I have to remember to delete these. I should have done it at the start, because you see in here, if you pay attention, this is like a perfect 90-degree angle. That means no curves, but in here there is a slight bend. I don't know if you see it. It is bent. It's not perfect 90-degree angle. And why does this look wider? It is because it needs to be put down a bit. This needs to be pushed out, and this part needs to be dug in like so, and this needs to be pushed out again, and this should be a bit angled. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. We need to push all of this out. Oops. Push everything out and see what we get. This also. It cannot always be exactly the same, but it's good. Remember to flip it horizontally, because I told you we're working on the back side now. When you see this sharp angle, it will go in the front and it will connect with the front part. So this part here is basically space for butt to go over, if you get me. Okay, I'll put it like this on the side, and I will make symmetry of it, and I'll put it here. But we will not, now when we made it, we'll move it to the side, because we don't have anything to do with it just yet. Obviously, a bit to the side, move it a bit. It doesn't matter, but it's gonna make sense. Now we need to make front part. Now, when I'm working on front part, I'm thinking about how can we connect, how can we make it symmetrical. So we just make one side and then we do the other. Now, if you pay close attention, you can see that this side is completely identical to this side, right? And the inside side is completely identical. So the only difference is in this part. That this part is basically cut off from this side, and on this side there's like a little tiny bit added. So the smartest thing for us to do is to make this side and then just cut in here later, once we get the fit. You don't want to do it right from the start, but in time. As we said, where the sharp line is, that's the part that goes inside. So we're going to start on the right one. So this goes up to here. If you wonder what that purple line is, that purple line signifies a vertical point where you already have. You see, it's going to be where it shows up. You see, it's perfectly aligned with this, but my lower part isn't. So that doesn't really help me a lot. And now you might wonder, but why is it this part here? It's because of the pocket. That's what people leave when they make pockets. So don't worry. Let's do this first, and then we drag it to like here. I don't know, maybe then to like here. And this, I told you it should be straight, but I'm messing it up. It's not a big deal. So we drag over it, we remove that, and we make this perfect. As I said, when it's purple, it is perfect. But not always. So we also want to leave a little bit of space for this. And this is pretty steep. It's not like in the other one. Let's see. You're probably like, well, that doesn't look anything like the picture, and you'd be right, but we can change it in time. And don't don't forget that this is a bit angled as well, and they angle it so that you know the elastic band, it's the part where the belt is, right? Belt goes on top of it. That part is the part that tightens your pants to your body. So that's why this is up a bit, because it tightens it better later on. And this goes here. And this is a bit too small. So I'm just looking at the side and I'm basically doing the same thing. You can find the pictures, you can do, if you don't like this pattern, you can find another one. Just whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to make it exactly the same as I do. Even I don't make it exactly the same as the picture. And you probably, I know there's some of you that are wondering, why don't you just put it here and you just draw over it? That's a good idea, but I don't know if that is possible. If it is, I don't know about it. But it would be good. It would be really good if it is. It would speed up. Now, let's see. Let's see what do we have with this. It's obviously looking disastrous, but I think it can work. We need to lower down our pants. Even though it looks like it's touching all the way to like half a feet, you see, it splits feet in half. It is good because I want to get the folds, and you can only get folds if the pants are too long. And then you put like a little elastic band on bottom of it, so the cloth hangs over it. And as the cloth, as it like physics of it, touch one another, they create folds, and like X and Y fold and Z. And those are the folds I want. I hate vertical folds. I don't ever want to see those. But to get the folds that I want, we need to do it this way. This has to be a bit taller than the other side. That means this has to be taller too. And when you're doing the edges, make sure that this part here is a bit higher than this one or flat. Don't ever leave it so it's like this. You will regret this if it's really sharp like this. I made that mistake countless times and I don't want to make it anymore. All right, now we're down at the connecting part. I will still not bother myself with this. I'll do it later. But now these parts are facing forward. These parts are facing backwards. And you might wonder, why is it for you blue and for me it is not? It is because I made another fabric and I made it so that it's a rib 1x1 486. I also clicked here to change the color so it looks similar to this one. How do you do it? You click on this little eyedrop icon and then you click, I don't know, here. Doesn't matter. Or here. Or here. Where you like. And you click OK. You can also change the reflection intensity. You see here, you can make it like really intense. You can make it a bit less rough, shiny. Just whatever you like. It's not going to help a lot, but you know, because what we do here, in terms of texture, in terms of color, it won't have any impact on the end product. What we see here is not what we will have at the end. Okay, but let's get down to the connecting part. So let's begin with the inner side because that's the part which I always forget. So we click N hotkey, or you go up here and you select segment sewing, and you click on the front one and you click here. As we said with the shirt, it's important that they don't crisscross, like, you know, they don't cross on top of each other, but they're perfectly straight. Let's go here. On the side, we're doing pretty much the same thing. And since the symmetry is on, it's being done on the other side too. Let me see something about the pockets. Now, where are the pockets? Pockets are done like this. These are the pockets. So if you take this and you make a symmetry of it horizontally here, it would fit like this. And that part connects to this part here. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I'll show you what I mean. We need to click B and select side and remove it. So, because we'll need to re-sew this when we have pockets. You'll see. Okay, so let's make this pocket. All right, so the pocket goes something like this. It goes here, and then it goes like here, and then it goes up. I should have done it on the other side, but you know, Let's do it on the other side. So it's then I'll just mirror it. It's easier to follow it this way. So like this, and this part will be bent. So it will go to here, and then it will go up here, and somewhere here and here. Now, why did I do it this way? Because I press a V and I put it like this into shape. You see? So it's like a curve or something. And this part is not point but a curve, so I converted it as well. And this should go up a bit, but not everything, just this part. But since we don't have poly split, or how do you call it, point, but curves, we have this thing where when we move one, everything moves. And that's the downside of it, but we gotta live with it. So we also want to do this and then move it up tiny bit in this part. And we have our pocket that it looks disastrous, but it may be working. It might work. And I'll show you how. So we obviously move it up. We want to do sewing for it right from the start. And that means this part connects on top of this part. You see, like this. That's what I think, but I might be wrong. But we cannot connect the back part still to this, because the back still has this. You see this? This is like elastic part. I think this is a bit too big, but we'll leave it as it is. Maybe just tiny bit down, but it's not a big deal. Let's do this part. So what is this? It goes like this, elastic band. So it goes like this, and then it goes here, then down, and then it connects back here. So it has this and this, and this part goes up, and this is a bit bent in. It doesn't have to be perfect, you're just trying to get it to look similar, that's all. Don't stress if it's not perfect. I also want to make this a bit wider. But if you move the top part, you need to move the lower part, because as we said, it needs to be perfectly at 90 degrees. If it's not at 90 degrees, we'll see it later why, and then we fix it. It's not a problem. Okay, so this part, how will it connect to this? Obviously, like this. And since there's a gap here, that means it will tense that part. If it was going down, that means it would connect and there would be folds here, but we don't want them. We want it to be tight. Also, if you pay attention, you see that I messed it up a bit because I didn't flip it. And now I flipped it, so it's good. If you don't flip it, it will be see-through, and in ZBrush or later on in the actual baking, it will cause us issues. So if you get moved all the way right here, you right click, you click front or back or whatever, so you get moved in. Now let's do symmetry pattern with sewing, and we do it on this side too, and we do it here with the pocket in the front. So we do it here. Now let's connect this. Now pay attention to this. So let's say we have this part, so it goes from here. You see the part that isn't connected here, and we need to connect it to this and this. I'm still holding shift, by the way. So I need to find out of which is this. You see, when I move it on the left side, it moves it on the right as well. So I know it's this, and I want to make sure, yeah, it's this. Let's see if that works. I don't think it will, because the top part is not working as it's supposed to. Do you see how the top part is fucked? Let's see. Let me see. I'm not happy with this at all. No, this isn't good. No. We have to redo. Because the top part, where the pockets are not done good. Let me show you. You see the top? We can connect it to this. And do you see this line here, the blue line? It tells you how far it is. So this line is exact same length as this one here. Because of that line, I know. Okay, so that leaves us that we connect this lower part to this part. And now let's see how the length will face. I'm starting from top. Oops. gotta redo. From top, I'm holding shift. This is free sewing. And I need to see it from here. So where will it start from? Which one is this? Okay, it's this one. So I do it, and you see, it should go down here. But if you pay close attention to the left, you'll see that it overlaps it. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. This is also a bit tricky when your sewings go over the actual hands, arms, because it will cause insane stuff to happen that I don't want to happen. So I'll move it somewhat in. It doesn't matter because it will fall into its place. Also on this side, I should do it too, but to be honest, I really don't care. It's going to come into its place, at least I hope. So this part connects with this on the back, and we'll connect the front just for now, even though we don't have zipper and stuff. Let's see what do we get. So these pants, what do we see? There are issues with them, right? They're very low poly, so you might think that they are done wrong, but that doesn't mean so. We need them to be very wide because we want to have those X, Y, Z folds. I told you those are called. There's a fold theory about them, where the which goes. But since we do it in Marvelous Designer, you don't need to know it. You just make stuff and it sorts itself out. I also forgot to connect this back part. So you click space to simulate, and it's okay. It's looking okay. Now what I would want to do is find what this is. To me, this looks like what could this be? Could this be belt some sort? I don't know. Very likely. But all right. Let's do fitting first, and then we stop symmetry and we do these zipper parts. So what do I mean with fitting? You want to add a rectangle, and you want to make it smaller than the bottom part of your thing. Maybe a bit bigger, or actually exactly the size of one, because it will need to go around both front and back of your pants. Hold on. Now you might wonder, where is it? I don't know either, but I need to find it. We'll make it somewhere on the side. It was obviously somewhere on the far left, but I'll make it again here in the front. So you make it closer to your character so you can see it. It's gonna be below the feet here. Yeah, I told you. Okay, so since it is the size of just one leg sleeve, and it goes around both of them, that means it will tighten it. So take a look at this. Free sewing from top. It goes on the left one. I'll also select it here so I see what I'm doing. Look. Here to here. And it could continue from here on the back, and that is here. Yeah, it's this one. See? And now it's going to tighten it up. It's going to really tighten it up, and that is what we want. Oops. Now let's try to make it work. You cannot get proper folds at this particle distance, but at least we can get an idea of how will they look. You see, we need to connect the front and the back part of this as well. So we connect this to this, and I'm worried that it's way too close still, so it will not work perfectly, and I was right. So what do? We remove that, and we need to make it fit. We need to drag it by force until it circles around, like so. You see? Now it's perfectly round. And we connect it now. Oops. Here. There we go. And let me show you something now, but I'll need to up the particle distance so you can see it perfectly. But okay, let's copy this on the other side. Since we have symmetry on, we don't need to do this wumble jumble on the other side. It will do it automatically. So we go right click, symmetric pattern with sewing, and we put it on the side. So you see this? It did it for us. So we didn't have to bother ourselves with it. And you might say, well, this looks like some Marab pants, I don't know. And you're right, but you still don't know what I'm trying to think. Also, I want to tell you something about pens that I make a mistake often, and you shouldn't repeat my mistake. And that is, if you don't make this lower part exactly straight, you will have weird folds that you will never get rid of. So always at least make bottom half exactly straight, like 90 degrees, on both front and back. You'll thank me later after you make lots of models. I saved you so much headache with that, just so you know. Okay, so let's select everything and let's put particle distance down so we can actually see what we're doing. So I put it around 10. We don't want it to go extremely small yet because we don't have the proper setup yet. You see, this is a bit way too, how do I call it? It's a bit way too wide. There's one way we can solve it, and that is by making extremely thin, extremely short line, like we did, elastic line, like we did on the bottom, and it would tighten the top part together. It depends on what are you making. Do you want it or not? You see in here, it has it too. It's basically this. It goes around. You can see this is the height of it. You see, but this is AI image, and AI images often don't make sense. So as you can see, you know, in the jeans, denim pants, when you have belt, it goes over elastic part, and that elastic part has these, you see these like little connectors through which belt goes through. I don't know how they're called, but they go from top to bottom. But in here it goes as a part of pants, so you gotta be careful of that. Don't trust AI pictures all that much. You can use it as a reference, but what you see here wouldn't make much sense if you are trying to recreate it. So let's try to do at least some good to it. So as we said, we do it all over the front because if you don't want it to be extremely tight, that means it would be twice the size. This part should be twice the size, but we want it to be tight, so we need to wrap it all the way around our pants. So if you want to see the seam lines here like I do, you just gotta click here, right? You gotta click segment swing, but we don't use it. We use it here on the right side, and we do it on the lower part. So I see where it starts. I'm going to do it over the pocket 1, pocket 2. And then I want it to continue here. So the way you're doing it from, the side you're doing it from, is very important. I need to do it from here and then to here. And it should connect perfectly. But you might think that I did this wrong. And I tell you that I didn't do it wrong. Let's see if I did it wrong. I didn't do it wrong. I did it good, I think. But it's way too tight, so it goes through the model itself. Because the elastic seam is way too tight and this part is too wide, we get something like this, which is something I don't personally like. So we have an option of expanding this, making it a bit taller and then wider. To minimize that, you'll see it's going to be a bit less. You might think, well, nothing changed. It did change, but it's a bit hard to see. We should make this part smaller. It's this and this. It needs to be smaller, especially this one. So smaller, and even in height. So it's gonna be really. I think it's gonna be a lot tighter now, but we'll see. It's a lot tighter, but it's good. I actually like this, and I like that there's like a little bit of. I know there's vertical seams and I talk bad stuff about them, but maybe we can keep some of them. So I make this a bit longer, so I minimize these vertical lines. Some people like it. I personally hate them. I don't like them at all. So this is a bit too wide, a bit smaller. We still have to have a few of them, but that's life for you guys. This is something I can live with. But now the front part is still way too big. And it is because of the height. You see how it goes over. It's because it's way too tall. So we need to make it smaller as well. Like this, I believe. Let's see. Okay, I also saw one more thing that I made a mistake with. It's not a mistake, but I forgot. It's connecting the seams. You see this? You need to connect this. So that part is connected, and now we still see that it's still being pushed out way too much, and that is not good. So we'll make it a tiny bit smaller and tiny bit shorter. So let's see what we get now. It's going to be tighter now, a lot tighter maybe, but it's a look that we're trying to reach. This doesn't give me a clear view. I need to lower down metalness of it so I see what I'm working on. Okay, this is like it looks way too baggy for my taste. Some guys like it, I don't like it personally. I mean, it depends on the piece, right? In here it doesn't fit because I'm trying to make these a bit tighter pants, right? So the way we fix it is you can move this up a bit, and that connects it at the higher level, at the bigger height, which means less space to wiggle. And we do the same here. We move it up. Okay. This is you see it's a lot better now. It's still not great, but we're getting there. Pants are pretty difficult to do. You need to be really used to them. This rib, I think it's a bit too heavy for my liking. I'll try lighter one, 319 grams. Let's see if we get more folds. So I'm pulling it up. When you pull things up, you get these crispy X folds. But they get they get moved pretty quickly, which means that we can use. You remember this? This is heavy rib we used for the shirt. We can use it for the seams, and if we make seams even smaller than they are, that means they're gonna be tighter. Look, we're gonna make them even tighter, and when they're tighter, we have more space to stretch our pants through. There's also one more way you can do it, but I don't want to overcomplicate it for you. It's as complicated already, you don't need to get discouraged. So let's try like this. It's still too heavy. It's very, very heavy because it's way too, there's way too much space. We need to make it a bit narrower. Not a lot, but a tiny bit. Let's see what we get. I can live with this. This is, I think, a bit better, in my opinion. Oops. You see how it can mess it up? Yep, that's what it does. You see how we get the folds, you see how we get all of this, but we can make this part a bit narrower. So how can you tell which part is which? You click somewhere and you see, okay, this is the part, right? You see the blue line, this is where I need to click. I'll try to make it like this. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I hope it will. So you see, it holds it tight there now because I clicked on it. I want to do the same in the front. Apologies. Let's see. Okay, now what if we lift up this junk? Let's lift it up. And you see how we're getting these really, really nice folds. I love these. I really love these folds. But I don't like them here. You see that it's a bit too much space at the bottom, but too little space at the top. But we still need to deal with it. So what do? We will move this part inside. I hope I don't mess it up, but we'll see. You might wonder, why don't I just do pressure in negative? I don't do it because I know that it will create really tight seams, and this is a bit looser clothing that I'm making. I like this to be a bit looser than this. If you want it to be extremely tight, you just make it narrow. But when you make stuff, if you have folds like this, you see these folds that are like X. You see this little line. Maybe if I lower this down. I don't know if you guys can see it. Maybe if I change the color to something else. Maybe, I don't know. This is very visible. Do you see these folds? These are X, Y folds. Why do we call them X? Do you see this? X. Do you see Y here? Z here. Those are the folds you need. Those are the folds you want. You don't want vertical and horizontal folds. These folds are not great, but these folds are great and they're hard to make. You need experience to, in the software and in ZBrush if you're making it by hand, you need to know fold theory to get them and how are they formed. Drawing them I would say that drawing them is a bit easier than this, because in here you need to know pattern stuff, and I think pattern stuff is a lot harder than learning how to draw X's and Y's on the model. Okay, what we can do in here, in this model, we don't see the back part. We can assume that the back part has pockets. If you want to make pockets, it's really easy, it's not difficult. But remember to save every now and then, so you don't lose all the progress we made. Okay, let me make pockets so you can see how they're done. So in here we need to understand that this is not basic, this is not very basic pants. And they're not because this is two-piece part. If it was one part, you just go in here and you select this internal polyline and you just draw it over it. But in here, it's not the case. So I don't know if I should even make it. It can cause big troubles for me later on. Maybe I shouldn't make it. No, I won't make it. I don't want to mess it up. I like the folds and everything. Save everything. We are going... Oh, I didn't do this part. I can do it. It's not a big deal. Okay, so we're going to the front part. This is our front part, right? And you go into remove linked editing. You want to save everything before you continue with something risky like this, because you can ruin all of the work here. Look at how beautiful this is. Let's see. And those are as follows. So it is this part. See? It's on the left side, but if we look at the picture, yes, it is on the left side. This is left, if you look from the character, right? So it's here. But it's right here because it's flipped. It's so confusing. Okay, let's dig into it. So we selected internal polygroup. Oh, I need to move this, you see, or I'll cut into it. Internal polygon, sorry. So I need to determine how big I want it to be. So is this good? Let's see. So I drew it. Let's see how it looks here. Oh, I thought it crashed, but it didn't. Okay. And you see, it is kind of okay. It is kind of okay, but this part is still too baggy. All right, I'll make it anyways. We'll see what happens. So what do we do? You do right click and you do cut issue. And now it comes as a separate piece. And if you want to, what you can do is you can apply this fabric to it. And let's see what happens. It's still too baggy for it to work. We need to make it less baggy. Okay, how do we do it? This part is too going forward. What is this? Aha. Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared I'll mess it up here. Let's see. Maybe if I change the pressure size. Okay, so this part will need to go in. Oh, I hate this. I don't want to ruin the folds. You can do, I would do this in ZBrush, but I'm trying to do it here too. This is a lot easier to do in ZBrush, guys. A lot easier. What if we do this? We remove this part and we dig it in really deep. What will happen? It's getting there, but I'll try to make it like this. This should make it pop, but it will ruin some seams. Yeah, it's gonna ruin way too many seams, and I'm not happy with that. I'm really not happy with that. Makes me really sad. Let's put this up a bit. Maybe that helps. This and this. So there's less space to be baggy, but it ruins folds. Okay. Not ideal, not ideal. Okay, maybe it's not the best idea to do this. It's not the best idea to do this, boys. It's not the best idea. Let's revert to the last thing. I'll do this in ZBrush. This is not worth it. This is not worth it. This is a lot better model. And I'll fix this in ZBrush too. I'll show you how. If you have this thing popping up, like so, like I do, I'll show you how to fix it. But maybe this, I should have done this. I should have lowered this down so it makes this part tighter. See? Maybe now it would work. But this is still too tight. So we can do it like this. If we lower this, it means this part will tighten. See? I was right. Now we can make it. There we go. So that was the idea. Big brain, guys. Big brain. You gotta think. And you see what I did? What happens when you don't use symmetry? I mean, when you do use symmetry. Folds are still not ruined, and we still have this, so we're good. We're good to go. And this is a bit weird, but what we can do about it. So right click on this one and remove linked editing. And we do the same thing again, but maybe from lower ground. And this is a bit bent, so we go with Katisu. And no, it is too narrow, and that is never good. So don't be afraid to make it a bit bigger. A bit bigger is better. Just like this. It's not following the line. I hate when it's the angle. This angle should be making like 60-degree angle up here, so it's straight. This is something I can live with. So we select both of them, Katisu, and we're done. Now what you can do is a little wumble jumble. I have to show you, and that is if you click here and click here, and then you do internal line, and you do it like 5 mil. Let's see. Like this. You see how nice it is? But this is the interesting part. This is what pens often have. I don't know if you ever paid attention to it. They have the sewing lines that cross like this. And that, right now, you might not think about it, but later on, you'll see, okay, this is really interesting. I didn't know this. So we go, we cannot just do it like this because we need to do it up here. So in here, I think this line and this line. And I'm thinking, guys. Okay, let's do it like that. Offset. Okay. No. 1 by 1. We need to do it 1 by 1 so we get crossing lines. Like I told you earlier. So you see, we get cross here. And it will go on this side. So we need it here and here and here and... Oh, I think I moved it by a bit. Yeah. And here. And then you do again 5 mil. When we do a layer under, we will get... This will pop off. This will pop off really nice. That's why we do it. I will keep these lower parts here, because most of times when people make boots, they're struggling with fitting the lower part of pens into boots. So that's why I always leave that part down. Even if the pens don't have it, it's a lot easier to move things the way you want. Also, we need to do it here. 5 mil. You see? I'll also simulate. Okay, it's still, everything is still working the way it's supposed to. And you don't need to do those lines down there because that parts always get changed anyways. And now, on the back, of course, on the back, in between of pens, this part. Oh, this part definitely needs it. It will come on both sides. So you see, you know this line in the pens. It is the line that sometimes itches, if you know, when you wear jeans. That's the itchy part. And we do it like this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I like this. You can do it here on the sides too. You can do it on the top, but I don't know. I didn't decide yet. Maybe just on this part. And they're symmetrized anyways. Maybe like this. But it begs to have it on the lower side too, so we'll do it there too. So here. Yeah, this is what I mean. And up here too. We have to have it I don't know. It looks like it needs to go there. In the middle, I don't care really. But up here, yeah. It just depends on what type of pens you're making, I guess, and to your own taste. We need to make it on the top part because you see how it goes here. It needs to connect. So which is this part. It's this. It's symmetrized. We do it. And it's not perfect, but let's see what happens when we simulate. Maybe it is. It is. Okay. It's good. It's good. I actually like it. It could be a bit better, but it's best not to be way too picky with things. You know, when you try to overdo things, they get worse. They get always worse. I said it and I went to overdo it. But that's me. I can do it. I'm experienced. I'm experienced at messing up, so I get to do it. This is how I want them to look. Now let's change them back into the colors just so I see how will it look when it's somewhat similar to color that I want. Okay, we need to put it down at 3 particle distance. Let's save it before we do it, because I have a feeling it will crash. As you see in the bottom left, you have synchronization thingy, and we click space and we cross our fingers that it doesn't crash. And if you forget to do a layer under, you will not get any benefit from those, what are they called? From those internal lines I told you to make. Well, so I hope you listen to me. And when we used smaller particle distance, and we used the proper material, what did I use again? I forgot. Rib. We used rib 319. We did get leathery effect. Now, if you use a leather lambskin, you see, look at this. It's like so juicy, man. I love it. But if you use the leather lambskin, you would get really small folds. And those folds don't look anything like leather or latex. But these pens, you see, it looks leatherish and it looks latex. But don't worry about, I'm not talking about the shine of it. I'm not talking about the color. Those things we do in Substance Painter. But the folds themselves, that's what we're looking for. The folds have to look leatherish or latexy. And now when we're done with this, I want to clone under. So this is what we do. Layer clone under, and we move it to the side. So we have it separated from the part we did. Because as you know, as we did with the shirt, we remove the layer clone under. We'll remove it before we export. Very important if you want it to look good. It's still loading, so we have to wait. It is way too much polygons and it's way too much calculations, because every time when the layer clone from under touches the clothing we made, it pushes one another outside. And the computing is really messy and it's really slow because of it. But if you want to have really good results, you have to suffer through this. I'm not gonna speed it up to like 100% just so you know how long roughly it takes. And when you're making stuff, if you go with particle distance below 2 at this point, my friend, you will wait here for 30 minutes. We wait at the pens longer because pens have more parts, they have more polygons than the shirt does. So that's also completely normal. What you see green is the underlayer. You can see how it's slowly being pushed out and it's recalibrating. So it's looking better and better each moment passing by. I will not stop the simulation yet. until I'm 100% sure that everything is calculated. Because if it's not, I will need to smooth it in ZBrush and I will lose details that I don't want to lose. I think this is good. I think this should be done now. Wait a few minutes. If you selected the same particle distance as I did, you can wait a few minutes if you want perfect result. Wait for it to... so you might wonder like, okay, but how do I know when it's done? When you can move around normally with middle mouse button, you'll know that the simulation is complete and it's just standing. So you can stop it then. That's the best way to know. But, I can't wait here the whole day. So you see, it is beautiful. It's perfect. It's exactly like I wanted to. And you see here, because we had those internal lines, you see how it did little bent inwards. You see it. It sink into the fabric. And that's what I like. That's what I want. As I said, if you have really powerful PC, and I mean really, really powerful PC, not the GPU, but the CPU, you can go lower than 3, but it's at your own risk. And if you're gonna listen to me, if you use GPU for this, it will go super fast. Up here you can select GPU, but I burnt my X GPU with it. I burnt my GPU, and just so you know, it's at your own risk. And now when we're done with this, I want to export it. So File, Export, OBJ. But you might wonder, I know some of you will probably try, and I'll just warn you right from the start. You might wonder like, why don't you just switch it to particle distance of 2 now when this is already done? I won't, because it will ruin all of the progress I made with the underlayer. If you simulate it after you lower down the particle distance, you need to go through it again. And I don't have that much patience because you see it's already laggy as is. So now we want to find our Skyrim, it's not practice, it's a tutorial, and I'll call it a roll pants. I always call things that I bring from Marvelous Raw because they're not done. Oh yeah, I forgot. If you want these, I will not use it here, but just so you know, I know some of you will probably think like, why didn't you just put this? I didn't see it. I saw it now and I'm too lazy to go back. If you want to do this, you just go here and oops, it goes back. Did it crash? It crashed on me. Never mind. You just go back and you draw internal lines and you select them and you do cut and sew. And when you do that, when you do cut and sew, you will have these lines. But there's also a way you can do this in ZBrush, and I'll show you how. Actually now, if it brings me back before I did the underlying thing here, now, as I probably think it will, oh, please don't disappear. Please don't disappear. I cannot believe this. I'll take my advice, guys. If your drive is way too low on size, try not to try not to do this until you fix it. I'll speed this thing up so you guys don't go through it again. Okay, guys, so we can see that it finally did export. I also added the stripes. It's pretty simple. You just add internal lines, but you'll need to do a little bit of additional things if you want it to look exactly like this, and I'll show you how. But for now, what we need to do is we need to open our ZBrush. You can open the previous project if you have it saved. If not, well, that's also okay. You just put it in like we did with the shirt. But for me, it takes ages to load because I have so many programs on, and I'm also switching things from my C drive, and in the same time I'm recording. My poor PC, it will burn entirely one day. Okay guys, so here we are. So we're at the ZBrush now. I exported it. You know how it crashed for me, but I hope it didn't crash for you too. So these are the pens. I'll just want to show them to you. I want to show you what I made in the time that it crashed. So you see, I just added these lines, and I wanted to recreate these, but they are, you know, at this point, even if you do it there, you cannot make it look exactly the same. There's another way you can do it, and it is by, you know, going in here and just, you know, but I'll show you how it's done in the next video. I think 2 videos for today is pretty good. And I have to rest now, guys. And this is the result so far. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye bye.